As with everything in Civil 3D, styles need to be developed and settings need to be defined for all survey-related data. Styles include point, figure, network, and description key sets, which map raw survey descriptions to the appropriate point styles, label styles, and many other point-specific parameters. And the Settings tab is where you need to do some of the setup related to the survey functionality. As was discussed previously in the points sections, point styles need to be defined to control the display of all your points, along with the description key sets that map the raw code to those point styles, label styles, and so on. Figure styles control the line work and 3D geometry of a survey figure. These are located under the Survey category in the Settings tab. So under Figures, you have two subcategories, Figure styles and Label styles. The figure styles control how an actual figure should display. One of the great things about figure styles and figures in general is the fact that they can actually display line types even though they are really a 3D object. Regular AutoCAD cannot display a 3D polyline with a line type associated to it. To create new figure styles, simply right-click on the Figure Styles collection and select New. Let's go ahead and look at an existing one. So let's look at the center line of our road, which is the code CR, which is why we actually defined a figure style called Crown. I'll just double-click that, and in the different tabs, as with all the styles, there will be specific settings related to the object that you're trying to define a style for, such as should it display the vertex markers and midpoint markers and so on. Do you want it to be displayed at the actual elevations or exaggerated? How should it display in profile, section, and then the display tab is where you tell it how to display in the different views, plan, model, profile, and section, and what layers and subcomponents should be displayed. So this is why the center line of the road is displaying with a dashed line type, because the layer v-road-center has that line type associated to the layer. Label styles can also be defined. Should you require any annotation to lines or curves of figures? One of the great things about the label styles is that they are very flexible, and just by simply selecting a figure, so let's go ahead and select this figure here. So this is a figure on a bridge, and let's say I wanted to show the bearing and the distance for this figure, or this part of the bridge. I can click on Add Labels, and I can simply pick Single Segment, and that will automatically pick a default label style. I can define the default label style by going to the Command and Feature Settings as defined in the Settings tab. Another really cool thing about labels, and this is just labels in general, and we'll show this throughout the course, is if you select a label, there are many different modifications that you can do. For instance, let's say this says southeast and I realize it actually needs to say northwest. I can simply reverse this label and automatically it will reverse the direction. If you want to flip the label, you can do that as well, so the distance is on top. And if you completely mess up and you want to reset the label, you just pick Reset Label and it brings it back to the default setting. You can also move it with these really cool grips that move it along the object in case you have some other data that's behind it or in front of it and you need to get out of the way. The last object style related to survey data is the network style. And the only time you'll ever use network styles is if you bring in conventional survey data and you have turns and angles and setups. So let's go ahead and just double click here to open this one. And again, the Civil 3D Style dialog box automatically updates with the different tabs that are specific to the object that you have selected. So if I go to the Display tab, you'll notice that there are many different components to a network object. And I have the ability to control them in the plan and the model view, so when I rotate that view. What's kind of cool about setting this up in a 3D model setting is the fact that I can actually see any blown elevations. If I set this up properly, I can display all my different side shot lines and direction lines. When you rotate that view, you would actually see the line going down to 0, and you would immediately know that there is a blown elevation in some way, and you can edit your survey database to update with the appropriate elevation. This concludes this video discussing survey settings and styles.